And the dragon was cast out, that ancient serpent who is called Devil and Satan, who seduceth the whole world. And he was cast unto the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. The holy Prince Michael hurled from heaven the dragon Lucifer with the invincible battle cry, "Who is like unto God?" So powerful was this cry that it sufficed to precipitate that proud giant and all his host to the earth and cast him in dreadful ignominy to the center of the earth. From that time he began to be called Dragon, Serpent, Devil, and Satan, imposed upon him by the holy archangel in that battle as a testimony of his iniquity and malice. Deprived of the happiness and honor of which he had become unworthy, he was despoiled also of his names and honorable titles, acquiring in their stead such as designate his ignominy. The wicked plans which he proposed and enjoined upon his confederates, namely, that they should deceive and pervert all those that live in the world, manifest sufficiently his wickedness. He, therefore, who intended to scourge the nations, was consigned to hellish regions, as Isaiah says in the 14th chapter, to the profound abyss, and his cadaver was delivered to the moth, and the worm of his own bad conscience. Thus was fulfilled in Lucifer all that the prophet says in that chapter. When the heavens had been cleared of the bad angels, and the divinity had been unveiled to the good and the obedient, when they were already admitted into glory and the bad ones chastised, then happened what the evangelist farther says. And I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, Now is come salvation and strength, and the kingdom of our Lord and the power of his Christ, because the accuser of our brethren is cast forth, who accused them before our God day and night. This voice which the evangelist heard was that of the word, and all the holy angels heard and listened to it. Its echoes reverberated through the infernal regions and filled with trembling and fear the demons. They did not, however, understand its mystery in full, but only so much of it as the Most High chose to manifest to them for their greater affliction and punishment. It was the voice of the Son, who, in the name of the humanity which he was to assume, was asking the Eternal Father that the salvation, power, and kingdom of his majesty and the reign of Christ might begin, since the accuser of the brethren of the same Christ our Lord, that is, of man, had been cast out. It was like a petition before the throne of the most holy Trinity, that the salvation and power and the mysteries of the redemption and incarnation be put into execution. He asked that it be done so much the sooner as Lucifer, being filled with fury, envy, and wrath against the human nature, which the Word was to assume, was now infesting the earth. Full of love and compassion, the Word calls men his brethren. Lucifer is said to accuse them day and night, because both during the day in which he still enjoyed divine grace in the presence of the Eternal Father and of the Holy Trinity, he belittled us in his pride, and much more in the night of his own darkness and of our fall. He pursues us unceasingly with slander and persecution as long as this world will endure. The Word calls the works and mysteries of the Incarnation and his death virtue, power, and reign, because in them all these really had their beginning, and in them was manifested his great virtue and power against Lucifer. This was the first time in which the Word, in the name of his humanity, interceded for men before the divinity, and in which, according to our mode of conceiving such things, the Eternal Father conferred with the other persons of the Blessed Trinity in regard to this petition. He also partly revealed to the holy angels the decree of this divine consistory, saying in regard to the sacraments resolved upon, Lucifer has raised the banner of pride and sin, and will persecute with all his malice the whole human race. With cunning he will pervert many men, availing himself of their own passions for their destruction. In the blindness of sin and vice, men will prevaricate, heedless of danger. But his lying pride, his sins and vices are infinitely distant from our nature and wishes. We will therefore bring out the triumph of virtue and sanctity. For this purpose, the second person will assume human nature. He will exalt and teach humility, obedience, and all the virtues, and thus will secure the salvation of mortals. Being true God, he will become humble and submissive. He will be the just man, the model and teacher of all virtues. These alone shall be accredited before our tribunal and shall always triumph over vices. We will raise up the lowly and humble the proud. We will make labors and endurance praiseworthy in our sight. We resolve to help the afflicted and the sorrowful. Let them be corrected by afflictions and thereby advance in our grace and friendship, and, according to their capabilities, reach salvation in the practice of virtue. Blessed will be they that weep, and happy the poor and those that suffer for justice' sake and for Christ, their chief. And the insignificant ones shall be magnified, the meek of heart exalted. The peaceful shall be loved as our sons. Most dear shall those be to us who forgive and suffer injuries and love their enemies. We will assign to them copious benedictions of our grace and an immortal glory in heaven. Our only begotten will put in practice these decrees, and those that follow him shall be our chosen ones, our cherished ones. They shall be refreshed and rewarded by us. Their good works shall be engendered in our mind, which is the first cause of all virtue. We give permission to the bad ones to oppress the good, thus helping them to gain the crown, while for themselves they increase the punishment. Let there be scandals for the common good. Unhappy be those that cause them, and blessed they that are proved by them. The vain and the proud will afflict and despise the humble. The great and the powerful will oppress the lowly and abject ones. They will give benediction instead of curses. While they are pilgrims, they shall be rejected by men, for afterwards they shall be ranked with the angelic spirits, our sons, and they will enjoy the seats and crowns which the unfortunate and unhappy apostates have lost. The stubborn and the proud shall be condemned to eternal death, where they will recognize their foolish proceedings and their perverseness. In order that all may have a true model and superabundant grace, if they wish to use it, the Son will descend, capable of suffering and as a Redeemer, and he shall save men whom Lucifer defrauded of their happy state, and he shall raise them up through his infinite merits. We have resolved and determined upon the salvation of men through a Redeemer and Teacher, who shall be able to propitiate and to teach, who shall be born and live poor, shall die despised, condemned by men to a most ignominious and frightful death, who shall be esteemed a sinner and a criminal, and yet shall satisfy our justice for the guilt of sin. On account of his foreseen merits, we will show mercy and kindness. All will understand that those who are humble and peaceful, those that practice virtue, that suffer and yet forgive, are the followers of Christ and our sons. Nobody will be capable of entering by his own free will into our kingdom unless he denies himself and, taking up his cross, follows his chief and master. Our kingdom shall be composed of the perfect, who have legitimately labored and fought, persevering to the end. These will take part in the reign of our Christ, now begun and determined upon. For the accuser of his brethren has been cast down. The triumph of Christ is secured. To him belong exaltations and glory, since he is to wash and purify men with his blood. Therefore only he shall be worthy to open the book of the law of grace. He is the way, the light, the truth, and the life, through which men may come to me. He alone shall open the gates of heaven. He shall be the mediator and the advocate of mortals. In him they will have a father, a brother, and protector, after having been freed from their accuser and persecutor. And the angels, who like true sons have shared in the work of our salvation and power and have defended the reign of my Christ, shall likewise be honored and crowned through all the eternities of eternities in my presence.